to begin. Thank you.
A very warm good afternoon to one and all listening the agriculture information through website agriculture information. And I'll start with a brief intro. So my name is Pragya Naithani, and I hail from a small town from Himalayas, which is Srinagar, Garhwal. And right now I'm pursuing my PhD in agronomy from Govind Ballabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology. So, first things first, I would like to thank Agriculture Information for providing me a platform to talk to a wide spectrum of audience, that is, students, farmers, and PhD scholars like me. So, the topic of today's talk is going to be conservation tillage in maize. Starting with why is maize important? Why are we focusing on maize right now? We all are observing that climate is changing and there are too many protests going on throughout the world regarding the climate, and awareness has been creating right now towards the climate change. So maize is a crop which has a different physiology than other cereal crops, be it rice or be it wheat. It is a C4 crop, so we can see that it has wider adaptability in changing climatic conditions in comparison to rice, wheat, and other cereal crops, if we talk about. So, with this wider adaptability, we can make sure that even if the climate changes and goes to some extreme, we are observing there is increasing temperature, there is increasing carbon dioxide concentration. So, maize is a crop which can deal with such change in climatic conditions and can still produce an optimum amount of yield, a sustainable yield to sustain a increasing population. So this is the one reason why we are focusing on maize nowadays. And the second reason is maize governs economy and it does so well efficiently. Right now we can see that USA is the major producer of maize, and maize governs the economy of the USA. So if India pushes itself to increase the productivity of the maize and furthermore increase the production of the maize, we can also be a player at international level, and our economy will also get a boost because of that. And we all know that maize is a staple food for a lot many human beings. It is also used as fodder. It has various amounts of industrial, it is used in raw materials in various industries. For example, we use maize through corn syrup or corn starch. We use corn flakes, we use in our breakfast, and there are many such uses through which we take maize, and therefore it is also used as raw materials in industries. So, talking of tillage, conventionally, what is being done in fields is farmers go for 3 to 4 passes of harrow, followed by a rotavator, and then a line sowing of maize is done in the field in the fields. Conventionally, what has been practiced till now. So, why do we need conservation tillage if this is the practice that is being followed conventionally? What happened that the need of conservation tillage arise suddenly? So I'll tell you a short story, and it is a very interesting story, and it can be a repetitive story if things do not need to, if things are not being taken care of in the near future. In 1930s and in 1940s, what happened in USA is there was great economic depression. The fuel prices, they went down drastically. Crop prices, they fall down drastically. So what farmers did was, even the marginal lands and non-productive lands were brought under the cultivation, and they were tilled enormously, and intensive tillage was practiced to increase the productivity. So instead of 2 to 3 tillage operations, 4 to 5 and even 6 tillage operations were done. Due to which, what happened was, there were severe incidents of dust bowl. There were frequent droughts, and the famous dust storms used to be prevalent in the entire central regions of the United States of America. The soil completely eroded, become poorly nutritious, and there were no organic matter, least amount of organic matter present in the soil. So it led a very sensational, it was a sensational event in the scientific community, and all scientists, they came together, they discussed it, and they concluded that this cannot go for very much long. This will what this will ultimately lead to the death of the civilization if it will continue for 4 or 5 more decades. So this happened for a decade, and the scientific community concluded that we need to conserve our soils. We cannot let it happen for more than a decade. So they came with an approach. The approach came to be known as conservation tillage. So as the name suggests, we are focusing on conservation rather than the conventional practices which are being followed. And whose conservation are we talking about? We are talking about the conservation of the soil, its physical health, its chemical health, its biological health, conservation of organic matter in the soil, conservation of organisms, the biological flora, fauna present in the soil, and thereby we are promoting sustainable development and sustainable agriculture. If we are conserving nutrients right now, they will be available for the future generations to come. If we are conserving soil right now, it will be available for the future generations to come. So the concept of conservation tillage, conservation agriculture began. And with the conservation agriculture began the concept of conservation tillage. So what is conservation tillage? So talking of conservation tillage basically deals with the three major principles. And these three principles are residue incorporation, or residue decomposition and residue left over the field of the previous crop. The second is crop diversification. So by crop diversification, we mean that in a cropping system, we'll be inculcating various kinds of crop. For example, if I'm going for maize, the next crop is wheat. I'll be introducing a very short duration legume crop in between, which will fix atmospheric nitrogen into the soil, and the residual nitrogen will be available for the succeeding crops to come. This will also enhance the nutrient status of the soil, the nitrogen status of the soil, and will thereby increase the biological health of the soil. So the crop diversification is yet another principle of the conservation tillage. And the third principle of conservation tillage is minimizing the tillage operations, which means, for example, if a farmer is going for 4 passes of rotavator, he or she will only go for 2 to 3 passes of harrow followed by a rotavator. So we are reducing the number of cultural operations, and therefore we are minimizing the movement of the soil. So in conservation tillage, we can go for either reducing the tillage or completely avoiding the tillage. So if a farmer is completely avoiding the tillage, how he will sow the seed, how he will conduct normal agriculture operations? A farmer can just reduce the tillage to opening the seed furrow. There will be just opening of the seed furrow and placing the seed in the furrows. By this, what will happen is there will be minimum disturbance of the soil, and there will be least amount of soil erosion in the soil, and due to which there will be least loss of nutrients, less oxidation of the carbon present in the soil, and there will be carbon sequestered for the longer term. So these were the basic concepts regarding basic principles through which conservation tillage was introduced into the USA. And therefore, thereafter, year after year, the same problem started to happen in China, in India, and various parts of the world, and therefore conservation tillage got popularized throughout the world. So basic problem of erosion in maize. So if we have seen maize crop in the field, we'll come to know, we have seen that maize is a very wide space crop, and it has no tillers. There's only one stem or one culm. So maize is a crop which permits erosion, soil erosion. because there are no branches, there are no tillers, and it is a very wide space crop. As we cultivate it, we go for a spacing of 60 centimeter. So there are chances of wind erosion, there are chances of water erosion. Therefore, the concept of conservation tillage is all the more important in maize crop. And due to the more erosion and more chances of erosion in maize, there are more chances of degraded soil health in maize. And in conventional tillage, there is also a problem of persistence of a particular kind of weed flora. In conventional tillage, if we observe our fields, we will see perennial weeds also, we'll see annual weeds also, we'll see sedges also, and this creates much more problem in the farmer's field. And in conservation tillage, if we are practicing conservation tillage for a longer period of time, through mechanization, through regular passes of the heavy machinery, we'll observe that there is a formation of hard pan at the bottom layers of the soil profile, due to which what happens is the soil infiltration to the deeper soil percolation to the deeper layers of the soil is inhibited, and due to that there is a problem of water logging if there is no proper drainage in the field. This furthermore creates problem in the soil. And we know that maize is a very sensitive crop to both water stress, shortage of water, and water logging. Therefore, the concept of conservation tillage becomes all the way more important in maize crop. So till now, I have told you about the conservation tillage and how the concept arise, and what are the importances of conservation tillage in maize crop. Because there are certain challenges, as maize is a erosion permitting crop, and there is a problem of hard pan and water logging aroused because of the formation of the hard pan, and maize is again a very sensitive crop to the water logging and water stress. So we have also talked about conservation tillage. Now I'll be talking to you about a comparison between conservation tillage and conventional tillage. In conventional tillage, as we see, we completely invert the soil through proper plowing, harrowing, and other operations. The soil is completely inverted. Whereas in conservation tillage, only through minimum soil disturbance, only the place where we need to place the seed is being opened with minimum soil disturbance, and the seed is placed and then covered thereafter, so that there is no erosion, no disturbance of the soil, and therefore no loss of nutrients takes place. In conventional tillage, the carbon sequestration does not take place, and the carbon is oxidized to carbon dioxide and therefore leaves the soil and enters the atmosphere. Whereas in conservation tillage, carbon rests in the soil for longer period of the time, and soils are more healthy and biologically more superior than the soils of the conventional tillage fields. And I've already told you there are maximum chances of erosion in the conventional tillage, and in conservation tillage, there are less chances of erosion. Talking of soil's health, I've told you that physically, biologically, and chemically, a field where conservation tillage has been practiced is more healthy. Hello? So a field where conservation tillage is being adopted for more than a decade, it is more healthy physically, chemically, and biologically. Water infiltration into the soil, into the field where conservation tillage is being practiced, it is more because there are more macropores and there are more water stable macro aggregates in the field of conservation tillage. Whereas in conventional tillage, the soil pores are clogged due to rapid tillage operations, and there is less infiltration and less percolation in comparison to the conservation tillage. We need to keep in mind that the effects of the conservation tillage are only the function of time, are only the function of duration. Longer is the duration of the conservation tillage, larger are the benefits that can be taken out of the field of the conservation tillage. So I have told you about the comparison between the conventional and conservation tillage. And I've also told you about the principles, the basic principles that are the crop diversification, inclusion of, that is the inclusion of the short duration leguminous crop in between the conservation tillage. I've also told you about the residue left over, leaving over the residue over the fields to reduce the erosion, and the minimizing the tillage operations. These are the three basic principles. Now we'll be talking about the types of conservation tillage that we can go for in maize crop. What I suggest is, if a farmer wants to go for conservation tillage in maize, he or she should adopt the type of conservation tillage on the basis of the type of the soil, on the basis of the agroecological region, on the basis of the location on which he or she wants to practice conservation tillage, and the situation prevalent there. Throughout my academics, what I have observed is we can adopt any kind of conservation tillage. A farmer can go for zero tillage, that is totally avoiding the tillage. A farmer can go for minimum tillage, that is reducing the number of operations in the tillage. A farmer can also go for conventional tillage only, and conventional tillage plus chisel plowing, that is the deep plowing, to avoid the formation of the hard pan that I've told, which gets formed after the repeated practice of the conventional tillage in the field. A farmer can also go for furrow sowing of the maize. Furrows are made and the maize crop is sown on the furrows. Ridge sowing, the ridges are the furrows are made, but the sowing is done in the ridges. And a farmer can also go for permanent bed. The beds are made and the sowing is done on the beds on the two sides of the bed. So to choose between all these kinds, we need to consider the location, the soil, and the situations present in the field. For example, if there are less number of irrigations available to the farmer, a farmer can go for permanent bed sowing. In permanent bed sowing, what a farmer can do is, we can make bed through a bed maker. 75 centimeter of bed is made, and sowing is done on the two sides of the bed. So what happens is, when we provide irrigation through the channels or through the ridges alongside the bed, the water moves laterally. There is lateral movement of the water, and this seepage of the water takes place for the longer duration of the time, and it is taking place from the both the sides of the bed. So the water availability is made ensured for longer period of the time, and with less irrigation water, more productivity can be assured. In the same way, if a farmer is going for spring maize, during which there are high temperatures also, farmer can go for sowing in the ridges. In ridges also, there is more water availability due to less evaporation losses from the ridges. So after sowing of the maize crop in the ridges, germination is higher, germination percentage is ensured. There is better germination in the ridges. In the furrows, in the furrows, a farmer can go for sowing in the furrows, and in the furrows there is better germination percentage. And through better germination percentage, after a proper crop establishment or proper crop stand is achieved, after a month, farmer can cover the crop, base of the crop with the soil for physical support to the plant. In this way, better crop establishment is also achieved, and physically also the crop is avoided from being lodged. In the same way, if a field has high weed incidences and high population of weed, and the soil has a rich seed bank, farmer can go for zero tillage. Through long duration of the zero tillage, after a zero tillage has been practiced for too long, we can see that only the perennial weeds can be observed in the field, and the seed bank of the annual seeds is completely eroded, completely vanished from the field. So to finish the annual weed seeds from the field, farmer can go for zero tillage in the maize crop. So this is how we need to choose what kind of tillage, what kind of conservation tillage we can opt for. I've also told you about the types of tillage now. So now we'll be talking about the benefits. Okay, fine. We are going for conservation tillage, but is it increasing our yields? How much we can benefit from conservation tillage? In maize crop, it has been shown that throughout the world, I have read literature, I have read research papers, and I have reviewed that in maize crop, in conservation tillage, the yield is increasing after only after 2 or 3 years also. Such is not the case in the wheat crop and other crops, but in maize crop, in conservation tillage, yields are increasing. And this higher yield is also increasing the system productivity. I have already told you about the soil's property, like physical properties, chemical properties, and biological property. Talking about the properties in detail, the bulk density of the soil, it decreases. It means the soil becomes more friable. And likewise, the infiltration capacity of the soil also increases. So what happens is when the infiltration capacity increases, the water enters into the soil with more easily, and more the facilitation of the water from the upper layers to the lower layers of the soil is more easily and occurs more easily. With this, the amount of water stored in the soil profile increases profusely, and the amount of water available to the crop for longer duration is very high, due to which the farmers observe higher water productivity in the field. So this is the one reason that water availability is high. We have also discussed that yields are better in the conservation tillage. Water availability is high. Farmers are observing greater water productivity. The third is fertilizer use efficiency. With the conservation tillage in maize crop, the farmers are observing higher fertilizer use efficiency. Fertilizer use efficiency, it means that on per gram or per kg per unit use of fertilizer, farmers are obtaining more yield. So fertilizer use efficiency is also increasing. Fourth is nutrient content in the crop. If a farmer observes conservation tillage for longer duration of the time, the crop that he harvests has higher nutrient content, and there is more uptake of the nutrient in the crop. Likewise, the quality of the crop is also enhanced. And why is it happening? It is happening because the concentration of the nutrients in the soil are as such. They are not being eroded away. They are more available to the crop. And therefore, fertilizer use efficiency is also increasing, and nutrient content in the crop is also increasing. So these are the benefits I have discussed. Few more benefits are also there. For example, if I'm leaving residue on the field, which is a problem, so there is more rapid decomposition of the residue in the conservation tillage in comparison to the conventional tillage. And aggregated associated organic carbon, it means there are macro aggregates and micro aggregates, smaller aggregates and macro aggregates. So the aggregate associated carbon means the carbon which is associated with the macro aggregates and micro aggregates. So the carbon associated with macro aggregates, its concentration is also higher in conservation tillage, which means the carbon is sequestered for the longer duration in the conservation tillage. See, carbon sequestration is the major problem politically, scientifically, anyways, because we all are humans. We want our earth to be safe. We want our earth to be preserved for the future generations. So this is the hot topic nowadays, which we all need to be worried about. So by opting for conservation tillage, not only a farmer is choosing higher returns, greater yields, a farmer is also contributing towards the fight against the climate change. So that is what a farmer can do by opting for conservation tillage. We can conserve the carbon in the soil, and we can bring back the carbon back from atmosphere to the soil. So these are the benefits. And one major benefit of the conservation tillage that I have not discussed till now is conservation of energy and conservation of resources. By opting for conservation tillage, I have told you there are three principles. One is leaving the residue. Second, crop diversification. Third is minimizing the tillage operations. As soon as the farmer opts to minimize the tillage operations, there are less number of passes of a particular tillage, less number of rotavators, less number of harrow. less amount of diesel to be used, less amount of greenhouse gases emitted, and less amount of energy invested, less amount of machinery run over the field. So less energy consumed of the farmer, less resources employed by the farmer, which brings higher net returns to the farmer, and the maize cultivation becomes much more economic rather than what happens in the conventional tillage. These higher net returns brings more profit to the farmer. So this is all about the conservation tillage. The benefits of the conservation tillage I have discussed. There are few problems also which are associated with the conservation tillage, and what I have also observed in my field in Govind Ballabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology. So the problems are, number one, the problems of rats and the problems of rodents. When a farmer is not practicing tillage for a longer period of time, for example, for 6 to 7 years, there are too many incidences of the rat damage in the field. So what we suggest is, after every 4 to 5 years, a farmer can go for cyclic tillage. For example, for 4 years, if a farmer is practicing conservation tillage, 5th year he or she can go for conventional tillage. By this way, we can balance out the benefits of the conservation tillage. Also, we can eliminate the demerits like rat damage or rodents damage of the conservation tillage. So there'll be a balance. We'll be conserving the climate, we'll be conserving the soil, we'll be gaining higher yields. Plus, we are also opting out of all the demerits that we are getting from the conservation tillage. Another problem is the problem of stratification, nutrient stratification that happens in the conservation tillage. By that also, we can we can opt that out through this merit also, this demerit also, by opting for cyclic tillage. After 4 years, we should go for conventional tillage. So I guess my time of talk is over, and so is also my talk. Few more disadvantages of conservation tillage are the machinery that is being developed, the machinery that is being deployed till now is of such stature that it is only suitable to be used in large farms. And India is a country which has mostly the population of marginal farmers and small farmers. So the small and marginal farmers, they don't go for conservation tillage because the machinery that has been developed for conservation tillage is not suitable for their farms. So that is one more challenge that is being focused now by the scientists. But till then, what we can do is we can go for hiring of the machineries. Small farmers can go for hiring of the machineries, of the small machineries, and custom hiring of machineries can also be done. That way, it will not be very much heavy on their pockets also. Management of perennial weeds is yet another problem that is prevalent in the conservation tillage. For that, we can go for spraying of any contact herbicide prior to the sowing of the crop. Glyphosate or paraquat, any contact herbicide can be sprayed in the fields prior to the sowing. So another is consortium development is being done for the residue decomposition, so that the problem of residue is not very prevalent in the field, and it does not create any hindrance in the interculture operations in the maize. And conservation tillage is very much beneficial, but the problem of residue is overlapping with the problem of the fodder availability, because in Indo-Gangetic plains in India and other areas also, the farmer is using the residue, the maize residue, for the fodder. So if a farmer is not utilizing the residue for the fodder, he or she can leave the residue in the field. If a farmer is utilizing the residue for the fodder, he can minimize the tillage operations. That is also the conservation tillage only. It is not compulsory that we leave the residue in the field, and that is only when we are getting labeled as conservation tillage operators. No, that's not the case. We can deploy our residue, we can use the residue of the crop in the fodder operations or as the fodder, and we can minimize the tillage, and we can go for crop diversification. That way also we can practice the conservation tillage. So that is all about the conservation tillage. Now I will request the host to call out the questions, please.
Thank you, Ms. Pragya, for the detailed talk. Now I'll take up some questions. Just 1 second. Okay. So the first question is, in which states of India is maize cultivated in large quantity?
Okay. So the question is, in which states in India the maize is cultivated in large quantity?
Yes.
Right? Maize is a crop which is being cultivated in India in all the states, in small or in some small quantities, in some in large quantities, but majorly maize is being cultivated in Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, and few areas of
Hello, Ms. Pragya, we lost your voice, and few areas of till there we lost. Ms. Pragya, you are in mute.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in few areas of Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Karnataka, these are also the major players of maize.
Okay. So is India exporting maize?
Yeah, right now India is exporting maize.
And to which all countries? Any idea?
That I'm not very much aware about. But India is exporting maize to countries in the international platform.
Okay. And during which season can maize be grown? Which is a suitable season?
Okay, so this is a very good question because maize is a crop that can be grown in any season. Farmers are taking maize in Kharif season also. In Bihar, farmers are taking Rabi maize, and the productivity of Rabi maize is very much higher than Kharif maize in Bihar. They are taking 6 to 7 tons of maize per hectare in Bihar. Maize can also be taken in spring season. For example, farmers are sowing maize in February, and therefore maize can be taken in any season according to the agroecology of the area.
Okay. And does it require a lot of water?
See, the problem with maize is a very sensitive crop. If we do over irrigation, that is also problematic with maize. Maize cannot withstand waterlogging, and maize can also not withstand water stress condition. So maize is like a very sensitive plant, and what we need to do is we need to provide optimum water. If an area is under proper monsoon rainfall region, we do not need to apply any irrigation at all, and we can go for rain-fed maize cultivation.
Okay. Yeah. So, and next question, what is the health benefits of maize?
Okay. Maize is a crop which has 10% of protein, 70% of carbohydrates. Conventionally, maize is a crop whose amino acid profile is not very much rich in variety of amino acids. For example, we see that a person consuming maize for a longer period of time can suffer from pellagra, which is a disease due to deficiency of vitamin B12. But right now, scientists have developed special varieties which are known as quality protein maize. So with this maize, we can have a very rich amino acid profile and also proper concentration of carbohydrates. So conventionally maize is not a very nutritious crop, but scientists have developed quality protein maize, which is amino acid rich and a protein rich maize. So by taking that, we can have a very rich diet of maize.
Next question is sorry. Does Govind Ballabh University of Agriculture and Technology in Pantnagar also helps farmers?
Yes, basically GBPUAT, that is Govind Ballabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, has three basic functions. First is teaching of students of UG, PG, and PhD. Second is research by conducting various trials. And third is extension. Whatever research has been done in the labs or in the fields, that is being extended to the farmers through various training programs and various operations. So yeah, extending the all the research to the farmers is also the key operation that is being done by the university.
Oh. So now we have the last question, I guess. Yeah. So please let us know a little about your education and what made you to take an interest in agriculture.
Hello?
Yeah, you could listen to the question.
No, can you please repeat the question?
Please let us know a little about your education and what made you to take an interest in agriculture.
Okay. So, as I've told you, I'm from Srinagar, Garhwal, which is a small hilly town in the Garhwal Himalayas, in the district Pauri, Garhwal. So, I was born and brought up there, belonging to a teacher's family. My mother is a teacher, my father is a teacher, and there was no relation with the agriculture. After 12th, as most of the students do, I have given all the entrance exam, and this was the university I got selected. So, with no prior knowledge of what agriculture is, I decided to come here. And as the luck favored me, it came out to be a very good decision of my life. I did my BSc agriculture from this university, and I liked the concept of knowing the field, knowing the crop, knowing what of as my friends were doing MBBS and they were dealing with the patients who could speak. I was dealing, on the other hand, with the plants who could not speak, and I was told to treat them in my graduation days. So it was a very beautiful experience. I liked it, and thereafter I did my masters from this university under Dr. Ajay Kumar Srivastava. And right now I'm pursuing my PhD in agronomy. So that is my background.
Okay, good to know. Without
In
any
the meanwhile, for the period of 6 months, I have also worked as assistant agriculture officer under the state government of Uttarakhand in Pauri Gadwal.
Okay, that's good to know. Without any agriculture background, you have jumped into this category.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Ms. Pragya, I don't see any more questions from our participants. So now we have come to end of question round. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we'd like to thank you for the detailed talk and answering all the questions in detail. And we also like to thank all the participants for joining this meeting. The meeting will now be closed. And just for information, I've shared your email address with our participants. Just in case if they have any further questions, they can directly email you.
Okay, thank you so much. It was good talking to you.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.